It is, but not in a good way. We are entering this phase of the war in a considerably weaker relative stance than we were the first time around. And there are a bunch of different reasons for that. The most quantitative one is we have a very limited stock of interceptors that can shoot down Iranian ballistic missiles and drones. We fired off, depending on the type of interceptor, in the range of half of them the first go around. We have not resupplied that in any quantity at all. So we're starting to we're going to hit dry magazines pretty soon, and Iranian missiles and drones will start to get through more frequently. And as we've already lost, tragically, some American soldiers, they've already started to get through. The second, again, is that allies in the Gulf are clearly, they did not love this the first time around, and they seem even more reluctant the second time around. You see American troops seem to be concentrated in Jordan this time, which makes them more vulnerable to Iranian strikes, and seems to be about sort of American allies saying, we don't want any part of this. Like, don't do this out of our territory. And the third one is that the buffers that we use to cushion against the shock to oil markets and economic and the global economy have been, at least some of them largely depleted. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve has been largely emptied out. And if you want a real fun one, it's not clear we can refill it. There's nothing about this round of strikes, literally nothing, that makes it seem like the outcome is going to be better than the first time around, and quite a bit that makes it seem it'll be worse.
So President Trump has repeatedly said that the Iranians are, quote, begging for peace discussions or peace overall. What's the catalyst maybe to get the two sides together here? Because it just seems like we're in this kind of never-ending quagmire here. So it really begs the question, what maybe is next steps?
Yeah, I wish I had a good answer for that. The solution to this problem was to not get into it in the first place, right? Once you're in it, it's really not clear how to get out in any way that is imaginable. So we're conducting strikes that seem like the sort of strikes you would do before you did a ground operation in Iran. But the political costs of that are gargantuan, and the costs of putting American troops on the ground where they will be targets for Iranians are much more so. So I don't know how that would help the situation. If anything, I think that would make things worse. My best guess is what'll happen is the continuing economic pressure will ramp up until President Trump's just decide he's going to call it a day and say we're done. But I don't know how long that will take, and I don't think that's not going to go easily, because on the Iranian side, we hammered them for weeks. They didn't fold. Why are they going to fold now?
Gautam Mukunda with us. His book, Picking Presidents, is absolutely phenomenal. Can't say enough about it, about just thinking about the oddities of our presidents. So, Gautam, years ago, there was a kid out of Iowa who became an actor in L.A. And literally as a kid, I think he was like an FDR New Deal type. And then he basically invented how to run as a Republican. And Ronald Reagan said, go over to the far right, et cetera, and then move back to a centrist tradition as you run. I'm going to say it as a generalization. That's controversial, what I just said, but that's a formula. I don't see that formula right now. Let's talk to Democrats. You got a massive divide in the primary. Okay, fine. Democratic socialists, normal Democrats, I get it. But I don't see anybody with the ability to move back to the center a la Reagan on the first Wednesday of November.
So I think those people exist, but they don't exist this election cycle. You can easily imagine, say, Andy Bashir positioning himself that way, right?
Exactly.
He's yeah. And so when we go to the presidential election cycle, I think there's going to be incentives to push back to the center. Can't tell you that those people will win, but those people will exist. They will run. They'll make the case, and we'll see what happens. This cycle around is pretty different, right? And I think you're starting to see the Democratic institutions kind of like push back against the DSA and say, wait, you saw this with Plattner, you're starting to see this in Michigan, with Democratic institutionalists saying like, hey, this is not a good idea. This is not going to work out for us. They're winning some battles, they're losing some battles. But I think it's really worth thinking that a lot of this DSA, though, what's going on with the DSA is people who are much more interested in beating the Democratic Party leadership than they are in beating Donald Trump. For whether that's ideological or for sort of, normal institutional power reasons, where they're like, for a lot of these people, like Donald Trump is their source of relevance, right? We see as soon as Joe Biden took over in 2021, the audience and the traffic for left-wing media just crashed through the floor. People were like, they were feeling calm to that. And so Donald Trump is not really, he's probably the best thing that ever happened to the DSA. He's what made them relevant. And so what I think it's a lot more useful to think of this as a movement within the party to seize control of the party, and that is more interested in attacking party leaders than it is in winning battles with Republicans.
So how does that shape up for for the midterms coming up here in just a couple of months? Boy.
Yeah, we're getting close. And so there are a few things, right? Well, the polling is running pretty favorably for Democrats. It's not overwhelming, but it looks pretty good. And for them, and sort of you have to think that the Iran war is going to make that polling better, because we have finally crossed the threshold where the war with Iran is even unpopular with Republicans, which is sort of that's pretty striking. But the Democratic institutionalists are going to say, like, hey, we are going to leave wins on the table, right? And the one they're focused on is Michigan right now, but there are others. The governor of Wisconsin looks like one where that might also happen too. And the left has a theory. Their theory is that by running people on the left, they can activate people who would not normally vote and get them to come in. I'll just say, like, as a political scientist, I don't see any evidence for that theory. The data from 2024 was very, very clear. People who did not vote supported Donald Trump more than people who did.